Shalom. Okay, have I got a story for you? Now, you're looking at the picture behind me and wondering, wow, that's such an interesting picture. You've got clouds and the sun coming out and a big mountain and a small mountain right here with one person on top. Now, I'm sure since you're very smart, you could probably figure out what mountain this is. And if you said, and oh, by the way, and a lot of people down here, right? So this is a drawing of what an artist thought that it might have looked like at Har Sinai when Bnei Israel got the Torah. They said maybe this is what it looked like, because you have all of Bnei Israel standing around the mountain, right? This is all Bnei Israel. They're all about 3 million people standing around the mountain. You have, and we know that Har Sinai was a small mountain, right? It wasn't there were a lot of big mountains around it. So here you see like a big mountain. So, and then you have Har Sinai as a small mountain. And we know that Moshe Rabbeinu was on the top of the mountain. So here's Moshe. Now, the only thing that's a little different is that we know that when Moshe Rabbeinu was on Har Sinai, he was covered in clouds. So really, these clouds, if we were doing this the right way, we'd bring them all the way down. Now, I want to tell you a story that we find about Har Sinai, and then I'm going to ask you to think, as I'm telling the story, if you think the story is real, or is it a story made up to teach us a lesson? A lot of times, we have stories that are made up just to teach us a lesson. And you tell me if you think this is one of them, and then I'll tell you what I think, okay? They tell a story that at Har Sinai, all Bnei Israel got around the mountain. Everybody was around the mountain. And then Hashem said, would you like to keep my Torah? And Bnei Israel were thinking about it. A big decision, because there's a lot of things in the Torah that are wonderful, like having a good relationship with our parents. We like that in the Torah. We like in the Torah that we eat yummy foods on Shabbat, and Shabbat is really special because we get to spend time with our family on Shabbat. So we like Shabbat. So everybody said, oh, we definitely want Shabbat. And we get to study the Torah, which is amazing. But Bnei Israel, before they got to Har Sinai, they didn't keep kosher because they didn't have to. They didn't have the mitzvah to keep kosher. And now all of a sudden, they open up the Torah. What does it say? Hey, your favorite snack? Can't eat that. And this thing that you like, can't do that, right? And then Bnei Israel would even sometimes speak Lashon Hara about each other, and it wasn't not allowed. And now Hashem said you can't say anything bad about anybody else, and you can't insult them. Bnei Israel said, well, a lot of the things in this Torah are very, very hard to keep. So as they were deciding, Hashem lifted the mountain of Har Sinai up into the sky with Moshe on top, put it over Bnei Israel's heads. So now imagine this mountain over the heads of all of Bnei Israel, okay? It's pretty scary. And Hashem said, either take the Torah or I drop the mountain on top of you. Whoa. So Bnei Israel said, okay, for sure we're going to keep the Torah, right? Looking up at the mountain, wondering, uh-oh, is that going to drop on our heads? And then Hashem, they said, Na'aseh v'nishma, we're going to keep the Torah, and then we're going to study it so we can understand it. And then Hashem put the mountain back down, Moshe Rabbeinu on top of it. Now, I ask you, do you think that's what really happened at Har Sinai? Or were our rabbis trying to teach us a lesson? What do you think? Well, I'll tell you what I think. I don't think that's what happened at all. I think the mountain stayed where it is, Bnei Israel stayed where they were, and they were not so hesitant. They didn't wait to say that they'll keep the Torah. They said they'll keep it right away. So what was the whole idea? What is this coming to tell us? That Hashem lifted the mountain? What does that mean? So the whole point of the story is to tell us that at Har Sinai, Bnei Israel, it was so obvious to them that the Torah was great and that they should say yes. It was as if there was a mountain on top of them. They didn't have a choice. It was so clear that they should accept the Torah because the Torah is so wonderful that it was as if a mountain was over their heads. And the lesson that they're trying to teach us is that when we wake up in the morning and we decide, should we keep the mitzvah, should we not? It should be so obvious to us to keep the mitzvahs that it should be as if the mountain was over our head. That is a good story. Hope you enjoyed. Bye-bye.